Hey, welcome to Deck Armor Rewind. I'm Anthony Ford, the proprietor of Kong Armor, the world's toughest deck armor, and its deck rescue painters. Deck Armor Rewind is a look back at some of the previous projects that I've done personally and managed with Kong Armor. And what we can do is we can go back and look at some of these peeling deck paint lockdown encapsulations, deck rescue painting, deck restoration painting projects, and really go in and take a look at previous projects so that you guys can see the solutions that Kong Armor as a coating system can offer you guys for resurfacing your deck, and also what our services, how in depth they are, and the benefits of them and how they actually help you. Okay. um, This week we're doing the Anderson Township Deck. And this was a project that I completed back in 2019, I believe. Either 2019 or 2020. If I'm correct, it's 2019. And what this was a peeling Behr deckover lockdown encapsulation. It's where we're actually taking the Kong Armor coating system that is notorious and known for its ability to lock down and encapsulate deck systems with peeling deck paint, peeling Behr deck over, any peeling paint or flaking disintegrating stain. We can take Kong and we can encapsulate deck systems that have that without sanding, without chemical peel, um, and the owner doesn't have to go through replacement, because normally um, it's what forces them into replacement. They can't find somebody to deal with the problem economically, right? Well, Kong solves that problem. It has the ability to lock down and encapsulate these coatings without sanding and without chemical peel. So just looking at this, was a beautiful deck system. So this was in Anderson Township. It was in a very affluent area of Anderson Township. There's a lot of nice homes and a lot of nice little private communities up there. And this was one of those deck systems, a big deck system, two-tone deck system. So it was a two-color deck system. It had a floor that was coated in red, and of course it was accented in white. The band boards and the posts were in white. This deck had benches and all kinds of stuff. We're going to go through here and we're going to look, and I'll kind of show you what we were dealing with initially when we arrived on scene to do this deck system. And just peeling paint. And you know, this deck didn't have a lot of restoration. If I remember correctly, uh, I believe that these benches that you see on here, I believe that these here had a couple boards in them. Like one or two of those benches had a couple boards that needed replaced, and we did that very quickly and very swiftly. Used our air dry pressure treated lumber. So we have here at Kong Armor, because we do so many decks in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, we have air dried lumber, pressure treated lumber, that we store up and it's ready to coat. So we came in and swapped out the bad boards that were in those benches. I think that there was a couple bad boards in the floor, but it wasn't significant if I remember correctly. Let's go through here and look some more. Really looking through these pictures, you guys are going to get just an idea of the type of peeling situation we were dealing with. It was sporadic. There was a lot of loose peeling Behr deck over in areas, and then there were just little patches of it that were missing everywhere. You can't, with today's thin residential deck paints and stains, these customers that end up in these situations with peeling deck paint, it's a problem because they can't find anything Number one, they can't do the sanding, they can't do the chemical peel. It's a massive amount of labor. But even when they try to do something like coating over it, they can't find a coating that's thick enough to take out those imperfections, and they just can't find anything that can resolve this for them. So it becomes a problem. But here in a second, I'll show you after washing how this turned out. And let's look forward here. Again, this is just give you an idea of what we were dealing with, right? Areas of peeling deck over. I'll see if I can do this for you guys and show you what I'm talking about. There are not a lot of great options for homeowners to resolve this sort of edge that develops on these. So even if they can get all the loose film off of it, when they try to go over top of it, they can see the outline of where it was peeling, and it looks horrible, right? That's another benefit that Kong provides, is that our coating system is thick enough to resolve that for them, where they don't have such an ugly look once we're done with the encapsulation. Let's move forward here. There's just more pics. You can see those benches that I'm talking about. I believe those benches over there by that tree is where the bad boards were, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was a lot of moisture that was hanging out there. Fastener corrosion set in on those benches and rotted a few boards. Super simple. My guys got those swapped out super quick. Not a problem at all. There were a couple bad boards in the floor. This was the worst area. So this was the area where there was the worst peeling. And it was kind of right there as people walked onto the deck system. It was an area that got an unbelievable amount of sun. The whole deck here got an unbelievable amount of sun. And that's one thing that is to the detriment of deckover. It's typically applied by homeowners. The preparation that they do is typically not good enough. The cleaning that they do is typically not good enough. And just a little time with some UV rays, a couple months, and because of that, the adhesion, it starts to get damaged, and basically just took this stuff off of the deck and just made it look horrid. So you can see why these customers were in such a bad situation. And this is a large deck system. And even back in 2019, the prices have went crazy since then, right? But even back then, even just to come in and replace all this with lumber was tens of thousands of dollars. Now it's absurd, but even back then it was expensive. Go forward here, same thing. You guys can see peeling Behr deck over. That's that area that I just showed you from a different angle. The worst spot on the deck, right? What type of fasteners do they have? You know, I forgot. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Okay, so it looks like this was nails, galvanized nails. And that's why there wasn't a whole bunch of board rot with this. Had this deck system been built with deck screws, this would have been, with the peeling paint, with the sporadic protection that they had and the exposed fasteners that they had, this would have been a lot more board rot. That's another mistake that people that use Behr deckover make, or any paint or any stain on a deck, is that they don't take the time to fill over the fastener entry holes. Basically, they don't coat them thick enough, right? And then they get fastener corrosion, right? And fastener corrosion with decks that have peeling paint are huge, because there's areas that are left unprotected and it just happens. But with galvanized nails, even though they can rust, we don't see the type of rusting that we see out of deck screws. They last a lot longer without taking on major rust and corrosion. So that's probably why there wasn't a lot of restoration here, if I'm remembering this correctly. Beautiful deck system. And I'm going to show you how beautiful this turned out in a minute when we took the thick build Kong the ungodly thick, absurdly adhesive Kong armor, lifetime deck armor system. After we got all this prepped and encapsulated this peeling deck paint, oh wow, this turned out gorgeous. Let me take you through here and show you. This was before cleaning, so I believe these pictures were taken before cleaning. This is, let's see, this was during cleaning. See how much of it started coming off of there? Yeah. So that was during cleaning. You can see it when we started cleaning it, it just started coming off in little sheets, and that's typical of deckover when you start to clean it. I've done probably more peeling Behr deckover lockdown encapsulations as far as encapsulating peeling Behr deckover with a coating, probably than any deck refinishing contractor in the nation. I've done a lot, and that's very typical. And a lot of people ask me, hey, when you guys do these peeling Behr deckover or peeling deck paint lockdown encapsulations, you don't do sanding or anything like that. How's that work? That seems like horrible trade. Well, we utilize high pressure. So we come in with cleaning, several different cleaning tips, this type of stuff. Like this was a whole day process of cleaning this deck and prepping it correctly so that we could come in with the industrial grade Kong and do the encapsulation, the lockdown, right? But our goal is to get all the loose stuff off of the deck system. We want to try to get every single ounce of it off of the deck system. That way the only thing that's left on there is any deck over or any deck paint that actually has good adhesion. Okay, that's the only thing that we're actually encapsulating. A lot of people get that mixed up. They think that we just come in and apply Kong over top of all that loose paint and that type of stuff. We don't, right? Now, the neat thing about Kong is that it can take loose paint. So if we don't get every ounce of it off of there, it can take it. And what it does is it kind of, if we roll it over top of loose coating, it'll kind of suck it up into the roller and then it'll spit it back out and lock it down to the floor. So we try to get every single ounce of it off of there. If we miss a spot or two, it's typically not a huge deal because Kong is so thick and so adhesive that it kind of finds a way to encapsulate it anyways. Let's move forward here. And so this was after cleaning. Those little gray spots there that you see, this is either before silverback epoxy or right when we started using silverback epoxy. Now look, you guys can see the board repair that I was talking about over here. See that over there? So we actually did come in on those benches and repair those planks like I told you about. And that was sort of the that was sort of the gist of the restoration on this deck. There wasn't a lot of it again. But those little spots that you guys are seeing in the deck, those are where we came in. A lot of times on these older deck systems, you'll have two boards that butt up together where they meet together. Well, over the years, these boards will shrink a little bit and it'll leave a gap like that. The owners hate it, right? They're like, I have that gap between my boards. Here at Kong Armor, we have an unbelievable filler. It's an epoxy filler that we call silverback epoxy. And what we can do is we can actually go in and fill cracks, gaps like that aggravate people, and it cures up like 5 times harder than concrete. You can take an ice pick to it, a hammer, whatever. It's tougher than concrete. So it's a different type of crack filler. It's like, hey, we're going to close this off by brute force type of deal, and it's unbelievable. It does so much better than caulk. Let's move forward here. Okay, so this is sort of after the deck dried, and you guys can kind of see a couple little areas there where I'm talking about, but this is what this deck looked like after it dried, after we got all the loose paint off of it, right? You can see the only thing that's left really is paint that has good adhesion, deckover that has good adhesion. Now you can see one of those areas where the board butts up, like I'm telling you, right here. That's what that is. What you're seeing there is that epoxy was injected in there. If you notice over here on this side, there's one of them that doesn't have any gap, so it doesn't need any epoxy. So that would be over here, right? That there's no gap there. On these boards there was a gap, so we filled them with epoxy. We'll do that sometimes, and it gives the deck a more, when it's completed, you're going to see in a minute how gorgeous this is. It gives it a more synthetic, almost composite-like look, because all of its gaps and cracks and things like that. We'll even take this epoxy and close off big, large cracks in boards and stuff like that with it. So, see if I can get, let's move forward. Now we're at the finish, right? So this was after we came in, or during the process in between coats, when we were encapsulating with the Kong Armor system, the Kong Armor coating system. And this was a two-color process for us. We came in, we made this deck system exactly the same as it was before. White accents, white band boards, the flat floor was they did change that color a little bit. It was a red previously. We toned it down to a chocolate, which just had a little hint of red in it in the sun. But here in this cloud formation, this is a cloudy day, it's the red tint in it wasn't showing very much. You can see how beautiful this turned out, and the results are indefinitely viable. This is not a second-rate deal. Even though we were encapsulating over top of peeling Behr deckover, the adhesion is absurd with Kong. This is a viable system after this encapsulation, just as beautiful as any other deck system. Don't ever get that twisted. Look how beautiful. More beautiful than any other deck system, because you guys haven't seen beautifully coated decks until you've seen a high build Kong Armor lifetime deck armor system, an industrial elastomer system like Kong. You guys haven't seen a beautiful deck system until you've seen that. They're synthetic looking, very artificial looking, very high build, they almost look like composite. This is still wet. When this dries, it looks 10 times more beautiful, and look how beautiful this looks. Don't think that your deck cannot be brought back from peeling Behr deckover, peeling deck paint, disintegrating flaking stains. I see a lot of homeowners in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, they make that mistake, right? They think that they have to do replacement, and it's a horrid mistake. It's an investment that they can never get back, because it doesn't increase the value of their home. Just beautiful from where we were, right? With all that peeling Behr deckover, to look at what Kong's done. It's drawn all that, it's in caps, it's engulfed all that peeling Behr deckover, and now this is at the point. I remember this was in between coats. So we got all that encapsulated, and now we're at the point where we're building it out higher. Just a shot from the outside. It's just pretty. It's just turning into it. Look how gorgeous. Look how gorgeous. And you know, the thing about this is, this was even back in the day, before I started actually building decks super high. Like, if this was today and I was doing this deck, it would turn out tremendously more gorgeous. Even though this deck system did turn out gorgeous, they got their money's worth and more, trust me. Look how beautiful. Still wet. Once that dries all even, flush. Looks like a composite system. So they went from peeling Behr deckover, facing down probably a $30,000 replacement situation there. If they moved to composite, probably 60, 70 grand, right? They went from that to having a lifetime deck armor system. Beautiful. Lifetime limited warranty. Lifetime service promise. We gave them more than what they would have had if they, benefits and features wise, nothing competes with Kong. We gave them more than what they would have got with replacement. They got the ability to have warranty for life, and they got the ability to service, clean their deck system once a year for life of ownership, right? Just showing you. It's a high build finish. And again, I build decks higher than this now, but look back then. It's a high build finish. Now, when you look at that, remember, this is a close-up shot of the encapsulation of peeling Behr deckover. You guys remember the outlines I showed you at the beginning, that it's hard for homeowners to remedy with the thin paints and stains that they have access to, right? Now look at Kong's system when it comes in and encapsulates that peeling Behr deckover. There's not those outlines and things in the board where you can tell that somebody painted over top of a peeling coating. It draws all that out, turns the system synthetic and very high build. There's only one coating system that peels that if it peels very badly, it's hard for us to draw that outline out, and that's Restore 10X. It's just because it's such a bile coating. It's so thick and it's got a lot of texture and things like that. We can encapsulate it and we can make the deck system look decent, but you might still have a little outline, which most people live with that rather than replacement. But deck over, uh, deck paint, deck stain, Kong's going to rebuild your surfaces. You're not even going to know that you ever had any type of peeling paint. Look how beautiful. That's that little hint of red I was telling you about that's in there, right? Look how beautiful. Look how gorgeous, right? Now imagine you have peeling paint and we came in with the world's toughest deck coating known to man right now, the best deck encapsulation coating on the planet, and we draw your deck out like this. Plus we promise to stay with you for life to make sure that you never have to completely paint or stain your deck system again. You get that lifetime limited warranty. You get a lifetime service promise where we'll come out anytime, 24/7, 365 if the weather permits. If you got something going on, you need help, you need annual cleaning, you drug a TV across your floor and did something, we can spot touch it up for you. So the system comes with service for life too. Imagine that, right? Think about that for a second. And it's going to be most of the time 1/4 the cost of replacement or less. Why would you ever not embrace that? It's an unbelievable opportunity. Kong Armor is an unbelievable opportunity for Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana residents that have any type of peeling deck paint to bring their deck systems roaring back to life for life, right? Just beautiful. Look at that two-tone. Just beautiful. Just gorgeous. Look at that. And another advantage I'll talk to you guys about, you don't see fastener entry holes there, do you? So you don't see the nail holes really, right? Especially nowadays. Back then I wasn't such a stickler on it. Now I am. But even here, this is back 2019, 2020. The thick build Kong has all of those nail and screw entry holes covered over. True water lock. That's when you guys talk about sealing a deck, water locking a deck, or they say deck sealing. What do you think you do that for? It's supposed to be done to keep your fasteners from corroding, so that you don't end up getting board rot. Okay, Kong accomplishes that. It's the only coating system that I know that does accomplish it because of how we apply it. Professional application only, and we don't stop until we get the results that are first in class, right? We have to manually press into those nail and screw holes, manually press into the cracks, all that type of stuff. When homeowners do their own decks, or a deck painter that maybe only does a deck or two a year, they don't know that they're supposed to do that. They just worried about getting the deck pretty and getting their money, right? With Kong, you get the real deal. True water lock, right? Another thing about this thick build coating, when it's thicker, it's better, right? We can put 7 to 10 times the amount of UV block in it. So in the future, you don't end up with that UV ray uh, degradation that I told you about that happens to deckover out in the Behr sun, or happens to any deck paint that's thin. And yeah, look how, wow, just gorgeous. Kong Armor's top notch, man. And its ability to bring back decks from peeling Behr deckover, it's just unmatched in the industry. And listen, I've done it more than anybody on the planet. So if you find this video, and listen, if you're suffering from peeling Behr deckover and you find this video, or you're suffering from peeling deck paint, a stain or whatever it may be, and you're like, I don't understand how I'm going to resolve this, I'm going to have to replace this deck, you're exactly who I made this video for. Yeah, a guy told me the other day, you're going to do a weekly episodic show of your past projects? Isn't that a lot of time when you could just run an ad? I don't care if anybody wants. I'm looking to find one person, just reach one person, two people that I can show the benefits of Kong to. I don't care if 150 people, 300 people watch this. I'm just looking for you, just a person that needs help. That's it. If I somehow get into your feed and you find this, I am the most experienced deck rescue painter in the whole nation at resolving this, and I can resolve it for you and give you those warranties and those promises that I talked about. And I've stood behind that for a decade now. This is your lucky day. You just found a solution that's going to save you tens of thousands of dollars. If you got a deck system like this one pictured, I saved these people tons of money. I mean, good, good, goodness, tons of money. And look, I made profit off of it too. It was a good deal for me too. And if I do your deck, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to make profit, but at the same time, you're going to save. Think about it. You save up front, you avoid replacement. Kong, the price of Kong is going to be less than the replacement cost that you avoid. So right away, Kong's going to pay for itself. Boom. Right away. As soon as you buy, it's going to pay for itself, right? Then over the years, as we stay with you with that service promise and that warranty, and you never have to completely paint or stain your deck system again, right? It's going to pay you back dividends. So Kong Armor is the only coating system, deck coating system on the planet right now that actually pays you to take it, right? It actually pays you back. That's what you guys need to realize. It's a positive purchase. Listen, I'm Anthony Ford. I'm the proprietor of Kong Armor, the world's toughest deck armor. It it encapsulates peeling Behr deck over like it's nothing. Any peeling paint, any flaking, disintegrating deck stain. This has been Deck Armor Rewind, a look back at the Anderson Township deck, a deck system that I did about 4 or 5 years ago. And look back, and if you hung out with me and watched all the way to the end, I appreciate you. Appreciate you hanging out with me. You can find more information about Kong Armor or schedule a free quote at kongarmor.com. Okay. Next week, Friday, 8 p.m. on the head. A new episode of this show right here, Deck Armor Rewind, will premiere on YouTube or Facebook. I hope you catch it. I also hope that wherever you're watching me at now, right now, Facebook, YouTube, wherever, I hope you click the little tab thing on this video and click follow or subscribe or whatever it is. And I'll see you guys soon.